What is up, all you GBA type fans? This is Tom, and I'm here bringing you guys week 8 of the GBA. This week, we take on Kooper, the man that last time I took him on, 6-0'd me with Aggron. PTSD. I still have that sometimes. Anyway, so we're going up against Kooper. His team is a lot different, and so is mine, in terms of our team structure that we had back in Season 3 prior to the collapse. However, this time, I'm not going to let that whole Aggron thing get to me. I think that we do have a chance here. We look at Kooper's team right here, and honestly, it's manageable. There's not... Kooper, as we know, is someone who will be okay with stalling you out, but also in the same token, will do it in a methodical, effective way that will allow him to still, preserve momentum or offense or the like, stuff like that. So I have to think when I prep for Kooper in that means to ensure that Clefable doesn't get out of hand or Sableye doesn't get annoying. Even things like Gliscor and Empoleon don't just straight up wall things. Then, of course, you have Magnezone, which is really good against my team. Greninja, great Life Orb, obviously doesn't have Protein, but even with Torrent and a Life Orb, it's still pretty powerful. Then you have things that can set up like Aggron and Mega Gallade. The point with those is just, keep those in check if he brings either or both, whatever. But as always with this, the way I do this is just work my way down, kind of discuss the threat level of each mon, and assess properly as I go into building my own team. Primarily, his two main offensive threats to my team are Greninja and Magnezone. Magnezone because nothing really on my team wants to take an electric hit. It's nice. With Melodic on my team, I now have a very nice 50-50 that ensures that Kooper has to pick one or the other if he's choiced. Now, if he's like a Life Orb or an Expert Belt, or he bluffs a choice item, that's a little bit more, troublesome. However, I think the choice Scarf Magnezone is kind of a necessity because of the fact that I have a Starmie, I have a especially Mega Aerodactyl. So I think that it's more appealing for him to bring the choice Scarf variant. But like I said with the 50-50, going to Sylveon the T-Bolts, going to Melodic for the Flash Cannons. Same thing with Jellicent. They kind of cover each other well. And then I have Gligar, which I can make Spadef this week and kind of cover both. So then we look at Greninja, which with a Life Orb and its really effective coverage, it can go ahead and just kind of pressure my team. You can put U-Turn on it, and then it can get things like Gunk Shot for the Sylveon, and even when Sylveon's Scarf still gets outpaced by a Greninja if it's Life Orb. So I gotta keep that in mind. Next up is defense. That kind of bothers me is just the four fat things, two of which are especially fat and annoying, being Sableye and Clefable. And then Empoleon and Gliscor are both they're just stupid, especially Gliscor. I never really had an affinity towards Gliscor, and even using it, I just feel like I'm like scummy for using it because it's just such a pain in the ass. It's good at what it does, but really fucking annoying. Clefable's a problem because of the whole unaware thing. Kind of prevents some of my setup sweepers to like I said, set up. However, there's a way that I'll go into that I'm going to work around that. And Sableye can shut down things like Mega Aerodactyl, Tyrantrum, Sawk, and without Machamp on my team, I can't really absorb the status. And even if I did have Machamp, I think Kooper would find a way to ensure that wasn't a problem. But Clefable, he can calm mind, he could, just use its overall bulk and just be an annoyance to my team. And that's what Clefable is. I've used it before, and it's really good at what it does. I just got to understand what the SETI is, and then act as quick as possible to keep that from becoming a giant pain in my dick. Then we have Empoleon and Gliscor can set up rocks, can just be overall annoying. Gliscor can heal itself, Empoleon cannot. However, I think Empoleon allows Kooper to have a little bit more utility this week. And I think Empoleon has a appeal, especially because it can take on Sylveon really effectively, especially if it's Spadef. And then it can kind of soak up other hits from things like Starmie if it needs to. Because dual stab I was not going to do much, and if I'm not hitting it with the stab move, even with analytic, it might not do that much. Next up we have Staraptor and Mega Gallade. Now Staraptor
It's good against my team. However, the problem comes into play that if I bring Mega Aerodactyl, I can pretty much roost off damage that he does to me, even if he's choice banded. Like if I invest enough defense into a Mega Aerodactyl, or if I'm faster and he's like choice banded or like scarfed, he has to pick whether he goes for a normal move, a bird move, or a fighting move, all of which I have somewhat of an effective switch into based on his choices. Staraptor is still really good against my team because my team lacks Ghost offense, Electric offense, and Bird offense. I can't really soak up those hits, but we'll find a way around those three. So Staraptor is somewhat appealing. Then Mega Gallade, it's fast, it's effective. It's just a little underwhelming. The problem with its ability is that if with Inner Focus, you have to let it set up with like a Swords Dance. So I think I could somewhat maintain a check level to Mega Gallade, especially if like he's looking at Arcanine as being a threat. And then we're looking at the two bottom ones, and Weezing is a Weezing. I never really found Weezing to be like profoundly annoying, but it's a Weezing. It could be effective with Will-O-Wisp and coverage plus stab and pain split. And then Claydol is his Dreidel, and it's made out of clay. Claydol. I throw it in the garbage. That's where it will stay. That was clever. And then finally we have the monster in the corner. There's a reason I didn't talk about that. Aggron is scary, hence all the residual blood it has on its face from what it did to me last time. And Aggron seeks blood, and specifically it seeks my blood, so Kooper might use that to his advantage. So we'll see how that pans out. Ooh, okay. So we're going to go from here into my team. Oh, before that, the 6 I predict him to bring. Greninja is really good against my team. Magnezone really good against my team. Clefable and Sableye, I think those two cover each other relatively well. Empoleon and either Gliscor, Staraptor, or Aggron. I think those three are probably the most likely because it gives them a mix of effective defense, with Clefable and Sableye, they can recover. It gives Empoleon the ability to be like a tank. You have offensive Magnezone, offensive Greninja, and then if he wants a little bit more defense against, some of my more offensive mons, he can go into Gliscor. If he wants a little more offense that can just pound holes through my team, he has Staraptor. And then if he wants to give me nightmares, he can use Aggron. The bottom three I'm not necessarily scared of. If they come, I think I can handle those, all three, especially Dreidel. So, that in mind, let's go into my team. My team this week. Now, you're going to look at this, and you're going to be like, hey, Tom, please explain. And I will explain very happily. So my front office and we understand that this season is not going that well, but that doesn't mean we're not going to have a little bit of fun. Now, the idea that was sprung upon for this week is such. One person suggested we should do baton pass shenanigans with double dancing for Gligar into a sweeper. And I said, you know what, front office? That's brilliant. So, with that in mind, that's kind of what we did. Now, the Gligar is going to be a Spadef variant to take on things like Magnezone, Empoleon. It could not eat up Scalds, but it can handle Scalds. If he has Ice Beam, it's a way different story. However, then that's going to mean I'm going to switch out, because I can't really set up if he goes for 2 Ice Beams. But if he has Scald, then it's a little bit of a different story. So, the Gligar will be a Violet, obviously. And then, if you guys ever have any questions about the sets that I'm bringing for these mons, there'll be a Gyazo in the comment section down below. Now, with that in mind, you can always look at that. Always look at the specific EVs. I don't feel like going over the specific EVs. I don't feel like putting this up in Showdown. I like doing it this way. But it'll be a Spadef Gligar with a little bit of defense investment. And they'll be able to take on and or set upon the Magnezone, the Empoleon, the Gliscor, the Weezing even, the Sableye, a lot of things that I think Gligar can effectively get a Rock Polish up or an Agility up on. It also is going to be packing the Taunt, and then the Baton Pass, obviously. Taunt to kind of shut down if Sableye is going to be annoying, or I have 0 attack EV, so if he's like a Foul Play set, it's not going to be doing anything. Clefable cannot come on in my face as I attempt to set up, but if I'm in against like Empoleon or Magnezone, that'd be pretty clutch, because the Gligar can take hits relatively effectively, and then go ahead and pass off into something like the Sawk, which is Mold Breaker this week. It's going to be Mold Breaker, Lumberry. As a matter of fact, Tyrantrum and Sawk are going to be Lumberry for the case of the Weezing, or for the Clefable T-Wave, or for the Sableye Willow, or so many things that he can status using, of course, and it allows me to effectively set up or maintain some sort of sweep. Now, if I pass the +2/+2 into the Sawk, that allows me to use my 4 coverage moves, being Close Combat, Ice Punch, Earthquake, and Poison Jab, to pretty much pick through a lot of Kooper's team, if not all of Kooper's team. He would have to use Sableye to burn me, meaning that I don't have a means to hit that super effectively, but I do have means of hitting it really hard with Earthquake or Ice Punch. No knockoff, because it just kind of helps against only the Sableye. Poison Jab obviously is for Clefable, but the Sawk is jolly this week, and with the Mold Breaker I can make Unaware useless, I can make Sturdy Magnezone useless, I can turn a lot of things on his team that would otherwise be a problem for some other teams to be not really a problem for this specific team. Tyrantrum is a D-Dance Head Smash Earthquake Ice Fang set. Again, same idea. I have enough speed to outpace a Scarf Greninja. Once I hit +1 with D-Dance, I think I outpace Greninja by 1.5 points, speed points. And then if he's a Scarf Greninja, which I'll obviously gain that information prior to possibly passing a Rock Polish or an Agility into the Tyrantrum, I again have 2 points to outpace a Scarf Greninja. So that's the idea with Tyrantrum. Has the Head Smash because fuck you, I'm going to hit you really hard with the Head Smash, that's what you did to me. You just... And not only that, but if it's Aggron versus Tyrantrum, think of the headline: Dinosaur versus Dinosaur. How awesome would that be, right? Who is the better head smasher? Obviously Aggron, because it's part steel type, but Tyrantrum is cooler. Yeah, I said it. So, and then I also have the Ice Fang for the Gliscor. Earthquake is for pretty much everything else, especially for Magnezone. I really like Tyrantrum this week, and I'm really glad that I'm getting to use it now. I could have used it against Lars, but like I said, I explained, it's just not worth it in my mind. We have a Spadef Melodic. Again, first week we get to see this. This thing is going to be specifically to shut down Greninja. I can get a lot of information about Greninja based on this set, because I can tank both Gunk Shots for the Sylveon. Could also tank Grass Knots. Could also tank Dark Pulses. So many things this Melodic will help me do, especially just kind of stops Greninja in its tracks, forces it to U-turn, forces it to take Life Orb damage, or, allows me to see what it will choose to do for the match. The Melodic is going to be running Scald, Mirror Coat, Recover, and Haze. Haze to stop any sort of setup bullshit. Recover to ensure that I stay healthy. Mirror Coat for any kind of cheeky Volt Switch, because if he specs Magnezone, I believe the rolls were upwards of like 87 to 96%, so anything that comes in after the Volt Switch is dead zo. And then if he's not and he's Scarfed, it does like 46 to 50, 41 to 53 or something like that, or 46 to 53. And with that in mind, anything that comes in and I Mirror Coat on a Volt Switch or even a T-Bolt, either the Magnezone is dead or whatever else is coming in after the Magnezone is dead. We've seen that countless times where Melodic gets a Mirror Coat on a Volt Switch, especially against John when Shady used it. And when we see that happen, it always racks up some sort of kill. So that's the idea here. Scald is just utility, because Scald is, like MB has said, spammable move. Just click Scald and hope for the best. Next we have Sylveon, Scarf Sylveon, like I've ran for the past many weeks. Hyper Voice, Hidden Power, Ground for both Empoleon and for Magnezone. Baton Pass and Wish. Could have also opted for Heal Bell to kind of prevent any status that kind of gets through the cracks. But I do like the Wish to ensure that maybe I can pass off a Wish into something like Sawk or Tyrantrum or even Starmie if it gets a little bit of unnecessary damage that I need to kind of vet for later, so that I can effectively go ahead and use them offensively. And then finally we have Starmie. Now, I'm using the Spec Starmie set this week with Analytic, and I think for the so far in the season, I've learned that Starmie isn't that good. But I think this is why I love Starmie so much. Spec Starmie with Analytic hits like a fucking truck, and I love it. The calcs for most things on Kooper's team, if I'm using a Hydro Pump, he has to be Spadef and Polion to take hits. If he isn't, most of everything gets battered by 1 to 2 Hydro Pumps. Clefable, if it's max defense with Calm Mind, can't take 2 Hydro Pumps. It really doesn't like taking Psychics or Skulls. I also have T-Bolt for the Empoleon, but I have to be careful, because if I go into T-Bolt, and he brings in the Magma Zone, allows him to Voltrush on something, I kind of pick something to get take damage, which he has to make it 50-50. He wants to predict me to go into Sylveon, he has to go for Flash Cannon, I go into Melodic, he's wrong. If he predicts me to go into to Melodic, he goes for Flash Cannon, and I go into Melodic. It's a 50-50, which is nice with the Melodic and the Sylveon, but the point is, I like this team a lot. This team, I think, is really effective against his team. I'm going to have some fun kind of seeing if I can get the Gligar set up. We saw back in week 1 the Trick Room. I didn't allow myself to do that sort of type of plan. But this week, I'm a lot more comfortable with this team. I think the changes were good. I think losing Mamoswine, losing the Noivern was really awesome, and the Machamp. Like, all the 3 things that I dropped and made the transactions with, or 4 things even, are on this team this week. And I think they meld much better than Luxray, Mamoswine, Noivern, or Machamp did. So I'm looking forward to this. I think it's going to be a good match, and I'm hoping for a good match against Kooper. Win or lose, I'm going to enjoy myself as I always have. Hope you guys do too. Leave me any comments down in the comment section down below. Buy a shirt. And the battle will be going up around 3 o'clock today. I'm currently narrating this at 2 a.m. in the morning. This will go up around 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. Or I'll schedule it for like 7 a.m. Whatever. You'll see in your sub boxes. At this point, leave your comments. Let's chat. Give me your thoughts. Tell me how bad I am. Because you right. And with that being said, let's hope for a good battle when you guys see it. Talk to you guys soon.